So Marco Rubio recently suggested that foreign actors may be fueling political violence inside of the United States. And in this instance, he's actually particularly talking to the left end of the political spectrum.
Through intelligence and information sharing, through coordinated law enforcement strategy, through financial targeting and disruption, we will dismantle these networks brick by brick. It is time for the people of the civilized world to defend ourselves, to stand united against this encroaching darkness and fight for what is ours.
And somebody who served in the U.S. Department of Justice and the National Security Division on what are known as agents provocateur, I have a simple response to that. Show us the evidence. Hi, I'm Nate Charles. Welcome back to another ad hoc edition of the Rule of Law Brief. Again, I am still on vacation with my children, but as I mentioned previously, I think there are some serious issues that are currently going on in international politics that really can't wait to be addressed. So again, the problem that Marco Rubio is identifying here is something that is well known within human intelligence tradecraft as agents provocateur, right? This is when somebody from a foreign government or a foreign political organization is trying to influence political activity within the United States, perhaps even to the extent of causing political violence. This is certainly not a new tactic within foreign intelligence tradecraft. This has been going on since the dawn of time. We have terms to describe it. We have methods to investigate it. And quite importantly, we have criminal statutes to address and prohibit it. At the top of the list, we have something called the Foreign Agents Registration Act. Now, the Foreign Agents Registration Act is designed to prohibit the undisclosed political influence by outside actors, what we call in the statute foreign principals, generally foreign governments, but not exclusively. Now, again, in the United States, we have a very strong First Amendment tradition. It's not illegal to say something in support of a foreign government, but if you have been hired by a foreign government or another foreign principal to influence the American public, you're required to disclose that fact to the United States Department of Justice and to include certain disclosures within any materials that you publish in an effort to sway U.S. public opinion. Now, the Foreign Agents Registration Act is very frequently confused, even by learned attorneys, with another statute called 18 U.S.C. Section 951, which is broadly titled Unregistered Agents of a Foreign Power. Although those things sound very similar, and in a lot of ways they are, they address different kinds of conduct, and there is a material distinction between them. Section 951 is meant to cover a wider swath of activity. It doesn't apply strictly to political advocacy. It was actually meant as sort of a catch-all provision of the Espionage Act of 1917. Occasionally, Section 951 has been described as espionage light. It gets at activities that support foreign espionage, but don't necessarily cover espionage themselves, nor is it directed exclusively at political activity or political advocacy. Then we also have 18 U.S.C. Section 2339A and 2339B. These are two statutes that prohibit material support to terrorism. Again, to the extent that an agent provocateur might be trying to induce political violence inside the United States, they are at least arguably prohibited from doing that under 18 U.S.C. Section 2339A and B, at least to the extent that they provide material support to those acts of political violence. Again, these statutes were my bread and butter when I was at the U.S. Department of Justice and the National Security Division. Now, the necessary implication there is that what Marco Rubio is talking about here is not some kind of new effort. Again, we've been at this for years. We have very specific processes for investigating, charging, and prosecuting these types of offenses. And in fairness to Marco Rubio, these kinds of things do happen, not infrequently. One recent case that actually made the international press was the Internet Research Agency case out of Russia. It is quite clear that the Internet Research Agency attempted to influence the presidential election in 2016. And it did so at the direction and control of the Russian government. But critically, the investigation into that activity also assessed that they were unsuccessful, that their efforts did not materially affect the outcome of the 2016 election. And that distinction is critical. The danger here is not whether or not this type of activity occurs. It does occur. But there is considerable risk that the Trump administration is going to inflate the risk of this activity and use it as an excuse to question the outcome of future elections. So the upshot here is pretty simple. If Marco Rubio contends that there is a significant influence operation going on in the United States to radicalize the left wing of the political spectrum inside the United States, he better show us the evidence. These types of activities do occur. That is without question. But if the Trump administration contends that they are occurring right now in a way that could call future elections into question, they better start producing that evidence right now. Otherwise, it's incumbent upon them to just shut up and let the Justice Department do its job in an apolitical way.